Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with another brand new Haolonggood release. You can see we've got the Gastonia, and yes, we did just have a Haolonggood release yesterday. We already have another one with this figure. These did come out pretty much around the same time. You can see the species name, the 1/35th scale, the Haolonggood logo up here on the top. You've got a shot of quite a few of the other figures that are out in this current line of figures, but you'll also notice there are two different paint variants for the figure. Unfortunately, only one of mine is actually here, so I can only review one of the two different paint variants, but I will post a video of the other paint variant once I do acquire that one. And the one that is here is the green version, so at least it's the one that I was looking forward to the most, and I figured why wait, I might as well get a video up for this version now, and then we'll take a look at the other version when that arrives. But honestly, this one is gorgeous, and I love the overall appearance of this one. It's very much so sideshow-like. As far as their old Gastonia, I feel like it's extremely similar in appearance to that one. Maybe not exact, the tones of color are a bit different, but it's very, very similar as far as the overall design and stuff goes. So as always, let's jump to a closer look and we'll check it out from there. Starting up here at the head sculpt, you can see the head sculpt looks really nice. We've got a very peaceful look for our Gastonia, as it just seems to be kind of walking along, maybe looking for something to eat. Very nice paintwork on this one, as well as you've got some greenish tones, you've got like some pinkish tones or like orangish tones as you move down, and you can even see some lighter variations of browns kind of creeping through the greens of the face. We also have a different shade of color there around the eye, and considering how small that eye and in general the head sculpt is, it's pretty darn impressive to have a little bit of variation of color like that. You can also see up here on the top of the head, of course, we've got that nice armored look for our dinosaur. You can also see on top of the greens, we have the brown kind of creeping through the cracks and crevices of that armored look to the skin texture, and we've got some blacks kind of spotting up here on the top of the head. As you lead out into the beak is painted, if my camera would focus on it, the head sculpt is just so small. The beak is painted with a brown, a very nice dark brown. You can see the nostrils right there. There's some really beautiful detailing within the beak, and it has a bit of a shine to it, which I really quite like. Also, the eyes are painted with a blue and given a black pupil, and that is something that is almost like a trademark at this point of how long good are those blue eyes. Moving back here toward the back of the head, you can see the ears, and then moving back into the neck, you can see some nice creasing and wrinkling there in the skin. More of that lighter variation of color here, kind of mixing with like the lighter tone of the underside here, which is like more of like an off-white, and then you have like the orangish or pinkish tones there. You start to see some blacks kind of picking up here on the side of the neck as well. As you move back here toward the shoulder of the dinosaur, you see the blacks a lot more obvious as they kind of pattern through. A little bit of wrinkling back there behind the leg. Obviously, the dinosaur is in a really nice pose, almost looking like it's kind of changing directions. That's kind of the way that I feel as far as the positioning of the body. You can see this leg is really bent and obviously in the position of maybe like making a turn kind of. That's just the way it looks to me, but you can see moving down into the leg, the skin texture looks phenomenal. The scale detail is extremely crisp. We have a little bit more of that lighter tone here on the back of the elbow, and then as you move down, you can see we transition to a bit of a darker tone for the feet, which also looks pretty good. As you move back into the stomach, lots of really nice skin detail as you have tons of like wrinkles and creases and stuff, and then a nice transition up into the green, but within the greens you can still see like some variations of browns, which is really nice. Again, the paintwork of Haolonggood never ceases to amaze me. We have more of that patterning as you move back here toward the rear leg. You can see a nice big massive thigh for our Gastonia. You can see the hip bone up here, nice muscle definition. Again, more of that patterning moving down, and the black patterning is actually kind of mixed with browns in some areas as well. Lots and lots of skin detail again as we have wrinkles and creases galore. Moving down, you've got the knee right there. Again, more of that patterning running all the way down the leg again as we transition to that darker tone for the foot down there, which is like a black and a brown mixed, it looks like, when you lead down there. Again, more of the orangish and pinkish sort of tones on the back of the leg. And then as you move out into the tail, I really love the fact that they've applied this striping effect all the way through the underside of the tail. It looks super cool. On top of that, when it comes to the spikes leading out here on the side, you can see that they are painted with a black and brown mixture, which looks really nice as well. Again, giving even that area some variation of color. And if you lead up here into the top of the tail, not only can you see the nice curvatures of the tail as well as the scoots moving down along the top of the tail, you can see that really cool striping effect follows all the way up here onto the top of the tail, and it is really, really nicely applied, like super smooth when it comes to the application of that striping. You can also see again that the spikes here leading out on the side have like a black, they start out with a black and then lead out toward a brown. And again, a little variation of color is never a bad thing. It's like an orangish brown too, so it looks really cool. And then as you move back here along the top of the dinosaur, again, it is absolutely overloaded with osteoderm-like scales, as well as much smaller, finer scales. And in between all of those and the greenish tones, you can see the brown kind of creeping through, which looks really nice. We have more of that patterning and designing up here on the top of the dinosaur. And then as we move up a little further, again, our heavily armored look to our Gastonia is very obvious here at this point. And I like that these armored scoots right here have kind of like a light gray that's sort of been dry brushed over the tips of them, which is actually quite a bit different compared to what you see with most of the figure. You do see that here again as you lead out into the tail a little bit though, but it's really obvious because these scoots are a very dark tone of color, so that light dry brushing really stands out. But the rest of the spikes and everything of the Gastonia still have that same style of paintwork with the mixture of blacks and browns moving along. And if you take a look at the dinosaur from the opposing side, you can now see the head again is turning away from us. A gorgeous head sculpt right there. You've got the really nice detailing in the neck, again showing that turn in the head and neck. And again, a big bulkiness to the belly and the body in general of this dinosaur. Super, super smooth paintwork. You can really see the stomach again a lot better, of course, on this side because the legs are spread so far apart. And then you again lead out here. And I love that the lighter tone overtakes the majority of the underside of the tail, really making those stripes pop even more out there. But man, that is an absolutely epic Gastonia. Probably one of my favorite figures of this type of species to come from Haolonggood yet. As far as the size goes for the Gastonia, lengthwise, you are looking at about 7, heading toward, I'd say like 7 1/8. 7 inches and about 1/8 roughly, or around the 18 centimeter mark. And then for a height, the highest point would actually probably be the tip of the tail, which is right around 2 inches or a hair over 5 centimeters, heading toward 5.5, but not quite there. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Golovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect A Human Being next to our Gastonia from Haolonggood. And you can see it's fairly small overall, very similar in size to many other similar species that Haolonggood has released previously. And here is some very obvious evidence of that, as we have the Haolonggood Dinosaurus next to the Gastonia, which you can see they are fairly similar in size overall. We've also got the recently released Euoplocephalus as well, again, very, very similarly sized to our Gastonia. And same can be said pretty much here for the Gastonia next to the Edmontonia, again, very, very similar in size overall. So when it comes to these type species that are out from Haolonggood, they're fairly close in size as a whole, I would say. None of them really differ too much in size. And then for just another Haolonggood comparison, we also have the Nasutoceratops stepping in next to our Gastonia, just to give you one final idea as far as a different Haolonggood figure next to the Gastonia, and again showing off its fairly small size. So without a doubt, another winner from Haolonggood. Again, this sculpt is gorgeous on this. It has a very nice naturalistic kind of walking pose with a nice turn to the body. You can see the turn, and it's showing really nicely even in the positioning of the legs, but also as you move through the course of the entire body, the turn is evident through the entire body in the way it's positioned. So it's really nice to see, again, a model with honestly having quite a bit of life to it, especially as far as the overall pose goes. But the fine detail is gorgeous throughout, and I think the paint job of this might be one of Haolonggood's best so far, especially when it comes to realism. The way that they've applied a nice dark wash underneath the greens is honestly pure genius, and it looks extremely realistic when it comes to the application of that paintwork here on the figure. The patterning as well looks great. It's extremely nice and naturally applied, and it really pops on the figure as a whole. And again, color-wise is fairly reminiscent to the original Dinosauria's Sideshow Gastonia, which I feel like almost would have been the inspiration for this, which I really quite like. But the pose is really beautiful, the fine detail is really beautiful, and the paintwork is really beautiful, so it doesn't get any better than that, honestly. As a whole, it is a huge recommendation from me, and I would say probably the best Gastonia I can think of when it comes to a figure like this. So if you are interested, I will include a link in the description to where you can purchase this from Lana Time Shop right now. So make sure you do that, and of course, like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.